Budget-friendly luxury garden decor, elegant summer style without overspending. When I begin to envision a garden, I approach it as I would any architectural project, with precision, intention, and an eye for harmony. A garden is not just an outdoor area, it is an extension of the home, a continuation of personal identity, and a stage where nature and design perform together. To create an atmosphere of luxury, one does not require endless resources. Instead, one must refine choices, elevate details, and allow creativity to speak louder than cost. The first principle I always emphasize is clarity of style. Without it, even the most expensive additions feel disjointed and lack coherence. Ask yourself, what identity should this garden embody? Do you see modern minimalism expressed through geometric lines, clean stone surfaces, and a restrained palette of neutrals? Or does your vision lean toward a romantic refuge where pastel blooms soften the air and vintage accents evoke nostalgia? By defining this style at the outset, you establish a foundation as strong as concrete. Every subsequent choice must align with that design identity. Once the vision is defined, color becomes the architect's language. A disciplined color palette is the essence of luxury. Just as in a meticulously designed interior, restraint in color creates an aura of intention. Imagine a garden dressed in whites and creams, enhanced by lush greenery that frames the space like brushstrokes on a canvas. Such combinations whisper sophistication without ever shouting. Color control transforms even humble, budget-friendly objects into components of a curated composition. The rule is simple: limit the palette and you elevate the perception of the entire space. With the stage set, we introduce focal points. In architecture, a focal point is the element that commands attention, guiding the eye across the structure. In the garden, it may be a bench of graceful proportion, an ornate planter with classical curves, or a fire pit that becomes the evening's gathering place. These singular statements create hierarchy and rhythm, lending the garden an aura of luxury. Yet, they need not be costly acquisitions. A skilled designer knows that beauty often lies hidden in overlooked places. Second-hand shops, flea markets, or digital marketplaces where forgotten pieces await new life. A fresh coat of weatherproof paint, a polish to revive aged metal, or a careful restoration of wood can transform a cast-off object into the centerpiece of elegance. But design is never about singular items alone. It is about dialogue among textures. Texture brings depth, comfort, and richness to a garden. Consider the interplay of wicker furniture softened by outdoor cushions, the sleek coolness of metal against the warmth of wood, the grounded strength of stone juxtaposed with the fluidity of fabric. When these materials converge, they elevate the atmosphere beyond what any single texture could achieve. A designer understands that to touch is to experience, and thus texture becomes the silent voice of luxury. Weather-resistant fabrics in neutral tones with subtle patterns offer timeless appeal, while bold textiles inject drama. The layering of textures makes even a modest space feel curated by an expert hand. Lighting, too, is not simply functional, it is architectural poetry. As daylight fades, the garden must transition, revealing a second character, one of intimacy and invitation. Picture strings of fairy lights draped across a pergola like constellations suspended at arm's length. Envision solar lanterns swaying from tree branches, their glow dancing across leaves. Imagine LED candles outlining a pathway, each step illuminated with quiet elegance. These lighting choices, though modest in cost, weave enchantment into the night. The brilliance lies not in expense, but in placement, in the understanding that light is both guide and atmosphere. Solar-powered options allow this beauty without burdening resources, proving that sustainability and sophistication are not at odds, but in harmony. Then comes the very heart of the garden, the plants themselves. Plants are not simply decorative, they are architectural elements, living columns, walls, and sculptures. Yet presentation shapes perception. A plant in a mismatched plastic pot diminishes its dignity, while the same plant in a coordinated ceramic or stone effect planter elevates it to art. Luxury resides not only in the species chosen, but in the manner of display. Coordinated planters, carefully grouped and styled, can transform an ordinary garden into a gallery of living forms. Even lightweight, affordable containers designed to mimic expensive stone or metal can trick the eye and deliver grandeur. The designer's skill lies in curating these illusions with precision. Water, the most ancient of architectural elements, adds a dimension beyond sight, sound and movement. A tabletop fountain, though small, introduces serenity. The gentle trickle of water softens the air, creating a meditative rhythm that heightens the sense of retreat. Pathways framed with decorative stones or pebbles introduce order, directing movement with subtle elegance. Wood, when reclaimed and given new form, speaks with warmth and history, connecting human craft to natural life. A rustic pergola or a weathered table does not merely furnish, it narrates, reminding us of the timeless bond between nature and design. At the center of this outdoor symphony lies the dining space. To dine outdoors is to embrace life itself. A simple table, when draped in a crisp cloth, set with chic dinnerware and crowned with fresh flowers, becomes an emblem of hospitality. The addition of a sunshade or umbrella introduces resort-like comfort, while even the most modest bistro set, if chosen with intention, creates intimacy and charm. This is the stage for summer gatherings, where elegance is not in the number of guests, but in the refinement of the setting. Finally, there is the principle of restraint. A common misstep is to clutter a garden with endless ornaments, each competing for attention. Yet luxury thrives on space, on breath, on the absence of noise. A few well-chosen elements allowed to speak without competition create a stronger impact than a multitude of mismatched pieces. This minimalism not only enhances visual appeal, but reduces maintenance, ensuring the garden remains elegant with ease. Luxury is seasonal, ever-shifting with the rhythm of nature. Summer demands freshness, brightness, and vitality. Hydrangeas, roses, lilies, these blossoms add bursts of color, but always within the controlled palette that sustains elegance. Lightweight fabrics, seasonal cushions, and subtle decor swaps allow the garden to evolve without transformation. Change becomes renewal, not replacement. What emerges is not merely a garden, but a sanctuary. A space where design and nature converse, where every detail, though affordable, resonates with intention. This is the essence of affordable luxury, not in what is spent, but in what is imagined. When creativity and discipline unite, the ordinary becomes extraordinary, and the garden becomes more than space, it becomes experience. When we move deeper into the philosophy of designing a luxurious garden on a budget, we arrive at the second phase of my architectural narrative, the orchestration of atmosphere. If part one was about defining style, color, focal points, and the careful layering of textures, then part two is about the subtle choreography of experience. A garden, after all, is not merely a composition of objects. It is an environment that must be lived in, felt, and remembered. The first layer of atmosphere begins with spatial planning. As an architect, I do not allow chance to dictate how one moves through a space. Each step should feel guided, intentional, and revealing. The entrance must greet you with anticipation. Perhaps it is a narrow stone pathway lined with symmetrical planters, creating a sense of rhythm as you enter. Or perhaps it is a sudden opening where the path curves and the vista widens, presenting the heart of the garden in dramatic fashion. These spatial gestures are the architectural equivalent of storytelling. They cost nothing but thought, yet they determine whether a garden feels ordinary or extraordinary. Seating areas, too, must be considered not as afterthoughts but as destinations. Where will conversations unfold? Where will solitude be embraced? I design multiple layers of seating, an intimate corner shaded by climbing vines for quiet reading, a central dining space for gatherings, and perhaps a bench positioned to catch the sunset at day's end. The placement of these areas, their orientation to sun, shade, and view, transforms the garden from static display to living theatre. Even budget-friendly furniture, when positioned with architectural awareness, feels elevated. Beyond physical arrangement, atmosphere is sculpted by sensory engagement. Luxury, at its core, is multisensory. We have already discussed visual harmony and the tactile richness of texture, but sound and scent complete the composition. The trickle of water from a fountain, the rustling of leaves in a breeze, or the faint hum of bees around lavender, all of these are design elements, though they cost little to nothing. Similarly, fragrance is one of the most underestimated luxuries. Planting jasmine near a seating area, rosemary along a pathway, or roses where guests enter ensures that the garden does not merely appear beautiful, it envelops. Fragrance becomes memory, binding experience to place in ways architecture alone cannot achieve. Lighting, while introduced earlier, deserves deeper exploration here, for in atmosphere it becomes central. I view light as the brushstroke that defines mood. In the garden, there are 3 layers of lighting: ambient, task, and accent. Ambient light establishes the overall glow, string lights overhead, lanterns scattered at ground level, solar posts defining edges. Task lighting serves function, brighter light over a dining table or near a grill. Accent lighting is where magic lies, uplighting a tree to emphasize its sculptural form, or spotlighting a water feature so it gleams against darkness. With these layers, even modest gardens take on the gravitas of a curated resort. Importantly, solar-powered technology makes this not only affordable, but sustainable, marrying elegance with ecological responsibility. To elevate atmosphere, we must also incorporate verticality. Many amateur gardens remain horizontal, flowers at ground level, furniture across flat terrain, but an architect sees space in 3 dimensions. Pergolas, trellises, and climbing plants extend the garden upward, giving depth and layering. Hanging planters suspended at varied heights draw the eye upward, creating a cathedral-like enclosure. Vertical elements also maximize space, a critical principle when designing in small urban gardens. These vertical gestures can be crafted from reclaimed wood or repurposed metal frames, proving again that cost is not the barrier, vision is. Another essential component is rhythm and repetition. Just as in classical architecture, repetition brings order and calm. A row of evenly spaced planters, a consistent edging of stone, or a sequence of lanterns along a path builds a sense of cohesion. Repetition tells the visitor that nothing here is accidental, that even in its simplicity, the garden is orchestrated. Without rhythm, a space feels chaotic. With it, even the humblest garden feels designed. Water, which I mentioned as an element of serenity, deserves further exploration as a tool of atmosphere. A small pond edged with stones, a bird bath reflecting the sky, or even a bowl of water with floating candles. All of these add dynamism. Water interacts with light, doubles the sense of space through reflection, and introduces continuous motion. Luxury is often associated with fluidity, with seamless transitions, and water embodies that principle. When combined with light and plants, it creates a triad of atmosphere, alive, evolving, and deeply calming. Seasonality is another dimension of experience. A true designer does not freeze the garden in a single moment. Instead, the garden should change with the calendar, offering renewed beauty. In summer, we embrace hydrangeas and roses, bright fabrics, and open-air dining. In autumn, golden foliage, textured blankets, and candles emerge. Winter demands evergreen structure, lanterns, and quiet resilience. Spring bursts with blossoms and freshness. This cycle ensures that the garden never grows stale. With only a few small, affordable swaps each season, atmosphere is continuously renewed. Sound architecture also means anticipating gatherings. When guests arrive, how will the garden host them? Is there enough space for movement between chairs? Is the dining area shielded from wind? Is there a central element like a fire pit where conversations naturally converge? These considerations shape social flow. The most luxurious gardens are not those with the most objects, but those that host experiences effortlessly, where design serves human connection. Finally, we must consider the principle of perspective. A well-designed garden is not only beautiful when standing within it, it must also delight when viewed from inside the home. Large windows or glass doors should frame vistas of greenery, focal points, or lighting arrangements. This transforms the garden into a living artwork, visible from indoors, even when the weather keeps one inside. By aligning key features with indoor sightlines, you extend the influence of the garden into daily life, making it a constant companion. Thus, the second movement of this design symphony is about atmosphere, movement, sound, scent, light, rhythm, and seasonality. These are the intangible qualities that elevate budget-conscious choices into a luxurious environment. They are the invisible threads that weave objects into experience. A garden designed with these principles becomes more than the sum of its parts. It becomes immersive, emotional, and unforgettable. And that, ultimately, is the mark of true luxury. In the final phase of this design journey, we must step beyond style and atmosphere to address the element that gives a garden its true longevity: balance between function and emotion. A luxurious garden, no matter how affordable, must not only please the eye and senses in the moment, but must also sustain itself across time, remaining beautiful, practical, and meaningful. As an architect, I view this phase as the culmination of intention, where design is not simply decoration, but a lived philosophy. The first principle here is functionality. Every space, regardless of size, must serve a purpose that enhances the life of its inhabitants. In a garden, this means more than simply placing chairs or planting flowers. It means understanding the daily rhythms of the people who will inhabit the space. Do they need a quiet corner for reflection, a lively terrace for entertaining, or a flexible area for children to play? Luxury does not exist in the abstract. It exists in how seamlessly a design integrates into daily life. When form and function merge, the garden becomes more than a stage for beauty. It becomes indispensable. Equally vital is ease of maintenance. A garden that demands excessive labor ceases to feel luxurious, no matter how beautiful. Thus, I encourage the selection of plants that balance elegance with resilience, perennials that bloom reliably, evergreens that structure the landscape, and hardy seasonal flowers that deliver bursts of color with minimal upkeep. Similarly, choosing weather-resistant materials for furniture, textiles, and planters ensures that time and elements do not diminish their appeal. Luxury lies in effortlessness, in the sense that beauty is sustained without constant struggle. A garden that maintains itself gracefully embodies the very spirit of refined living. Beyond functionality, the emotional connection of the garden must be considered. A well-designed space evokes feeling, and this is where architecture touches the soul. Personalization becomes key. Perhaps it is a collection of hand-picked stones from meaningful travels, integrated as accents along a pathway. Perhaps it is a reclaimed piece of furniture from a family home, given new life amidst greenery. These touches do not cost money, they cost thought. They transform the garden from a generic outdoor arrangement into a sanctuary infused with memory and identity. Luxury, in its truest sense, is intimacy. It is the ability of a space to feel profoundly personal. Symbolism also plays a role. In architecture, symbolism is subtle yet powerful. A pergola may symbolize shelter and continuity, while a circular seating arrangement may evoke unity and inclusion. Even the choice of plants can be symbolic. Lavender for calm, olive trees for peace, roses for love. By weaving symbolism into the design, the garden becomes layered not only with beauty but with meaning. Visitors may not consciously recognize these elements, yet they feel them, and that feeling is the essence of luxury. Another dimension of balance is sustainability. In our time, luxury cannot ignore responsibility. A garden that thrives without harming its environment is not only elegant, but ethical. Rainwater collection systems, composting, solar-powered lighting, and drought-resistant plants all contribute to sustainability without compromising aesthetics. Indeed, they enhance it, for there is a distinct beauty in a space that coexists harmoniously with nature. This fusion of elegance and ecology reflects the highest standard of design, one where form, function, and planet align. At this stage, the social role of the garden must also be acknowledged. A well-designed outdoor space becomes a gathering place, not only for family but for community. Hosting dinners under the stars, casual afternoon teas, or quiet morning meditations, all of these moments are elevated by design that anticipates them. The furniture layout, the lighting placement, the flow of movement, all must support social connection. A luxurious garden does not isolate, it unites. It creates shared experiences that linger long after the evening ends. In contrast, the garden must also offer solitude. Luxury is as much about retreat as it is about gathering. A single chair placed in a shaded corner, a hammock swaying beneath a tree, or a small bench overlooking a planter bed. These elements acknowledge the human need for stillness. By designing both for the collective and the individual, the garden becomes whole. It serves extroversion and introversion alike, offering balance to all who enter. Perspective, which I discussed earlier in terms of sightlines from the home, takes on a final layer here, the long view of time. A garden is not built only for one summer. It must evolve, adapt, and mature. Plants grow, structures weather, memories accumulate. True luxury in design is not about perfection at one moment, but about a graceful journey across years. As an architect, I design with this in mind. Pathways are laid to anticipate growth, structures are chosen to age with dignity, and spaces are left open to invite change. In this way, the garden does not diminish with time, it deepens. Finally, we must acknowledge the emotional reward of creation itself. To design a garden within a budget and yet achieve elegance is an act of empowerment. It proves that luxury is not confined to wealth, but to vision, discipline, and care. When a visitor enters such a garden, they do not admire how much was spent, they admire how much was considered. They feel the intelligence of choices, the harmony of elements, and the poetry of restraint. That is design at its purest form. Thus, the garden becomes more than an outdoor space. It becomes a philosophy expressed in greenery, light, and structure. It becomes a mirror of life itself, functional yet emotional, personal yet shared, timeless yet adaptable. This is the ultimate expression of affordable luxury, a garden that demonstrates that beauty is not purchased, it is crafted. It is the result of vision, patience, and love for both design and nature. When I conclude a project such as this, I do not measure success by grandeur or expense. I measure it by the silence that falls when one enters, the deep breath taken, the sense of calm and belonging. That is the true luxury of a garden, the ability to make us pause, to remind us that beauty, serenity, and connection are not commodities but choices. Choices that we, as designers of our own spaces, have the power to make. And in those choices lies the most profound elegance of all.